Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Monday, May 2nd live stream for studentloanjustice.org. There's a lot going on, ladies and gentlemen. Hope everything's going well. Hope your week is getting started out well. We have a bunch of press interview requests. If you live in or around Atlanta, Georgia, and you're older, or if you live in the San Francisco area and you're younger, or if you live in the Washington, D.C. area and you're older, I don't know why they came in like this. It's just what they are. But if you fit any of those criteria and you're interested in being interviewed, and obviously you're buried by student loan debt, let me know. Send me an email, alan@studentloanjustice.org. By the way, if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, by all means, throw out your comments and questions, and if I can see them, I will gladly respond to them. So there's a lot going on right now, folks, behind the scenes and in front of the scenes. In front of the scenes, our opposition is going freaking bananas right now. I've never seen our opposition fight so hard, and I can only hope that everybody out there can see through all the nonsense and pick up on their desperation, but that's fine. It's actually a good sign. It shows that we've touched a nerve with them. For those of you who are new, by the way, we are the oldest, largest, and in many ways only true grassroots group fighting only and absolutely for student loan justice. We've been around for 17 years now. For the first 15 of those years, we fought very moderately for only bankruptcy protections. The return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. I'm here to tell you that now here today, as of, I don't know, probably somewhere in 2018, the lending system cascaded into catastrophic failure. The lending system is done. It's toast. It's finished. And even though no reporter has had the integrity to come out and just say that, it's true. We've been living and breathing this issue for many, many years. And I can tell you that even before the pandemic, 80% of all borrowers were underwater. They were either not able to pay, and that's well over half of all borrowers were not paying on their loans, or they were paying, and their loan balance was going up. 80%, 4 out of 5. Does that sound like wealthy people to you? That does not sound like wealthy people to me, but I'll get to that later. We also know that the default rate for 2004 students is 40%. 40%, 2 in 5. That's twice the rate of the subprime home mortgage default rate. And the kicker here is that people who were in school in 2004, they only borrowed about a third of what's being borrowed today on average. So my best guess is that even just before the pandemic, of everybody walking around with student loans, probably 65%, 70, 75% were going to default on their loans. That's like more than triple the subprime home mortgage default rate, which is 20%. So guys, this lending system has failed. It's done. It's finished. It's toast. The pandemic, quite frankly, is the nail in the coffin. So we still fight for bankruptcy, by the way. Bankruptcy lies at the core of this issue, and it always will. But we are now calling on the president to cancel all federally owned student loans by executive order. That's a very important distinction, by the way, because if we try and do it through Congress, it will never work. It will never happen. And I can explain that later if you're interested in knowing. But yeah, if you're watching us on Facebook or Twitter, you have any questions or comments, throw them out, and I will gladly respond to them in stream. So tonight, I want to talk to you about what to say to the haters. And if you Google student loan cancellation these days, you will see that probably 90% of the articles being written right now are hateful, hate-inspired, hate-driven. They're our opposition, and they are trying to do everything they can do to turn the whole entire country against student loan borrowers. Unfortunately for them, they will never win. There are 45 million federal student loan borrowers in the country, 43.2 unique federal student loan borrowers in the country. But there are also a ton of private student loan borrowers and cosigners, probably 10 or 15 million. So we're talking about 55 or 60 million student loan borrowers in the country. Roughly 80% were underwater on their loans before the pandemic, and we vote. We are 1 in 5 of all adults. So, in fact, we are the largest untethered voting bloc in the history of this country. I kid you not. On November 3rd, I would have told you that we're probably 10 strongly to vote for the Democrats because Joe Biden was making some very lofty promises prior to the election, November 3rd, 2020, I should say. Now, however, no, all bets are off. Biden has blatantly betrayed us. And I don't even know 5 people, and I know a lot of people, but I don't even know 5 people that are super thrilled with Joe Biden. Like, anyways, you already know what I'm talking about. So yeah, we're an untethered voting bloc, guys. And for the life of me, I can't understand why, on one hand, and we're a fiercely nonpartisan group, by the way. If you're Republican or Democrat or Libertarian or socialist or communist, you're very welcome in our group. We're glad you're here. But we have to be politically aware. We have to be partisan aware. And I cannot figure out for the life of me why, on the one hand, we have the Democrats blatantly broke their promise to us, Biden did, and they're doing everything they can do to piss us off. Say, oh, we might do this, we might do that, we might do up to $50,000, we might do up to $10,000. Well, we will do bankruptcy, they said at one point, and now we haven't heard anything. So they're just stringing us along and I'd say infuriating us. And then on the other side of the spectrum, we have the Republicans who at this point are by and large wagging their fingers at us. And it is astonishing to me. You know, more than half of all federal student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent. You know, 55 million people is nearly enough to elect a president outright. So why are both parties doing everything they can do to alienate us? I don't get it. It is like the Twilight Zone. Hey, Crispy Street, how you doing, Chris? How's a comment, Crispy Street? Why would rich people take out loans? I think that question just kind of answered itself, Chris. Rich people don't take out student loans. Wealthy people do not take out student loans. And which leads me to the topic of discussion tonight, how to answer the haters. So right now, the haters, our opposition, are basically saying 3 or 4 things. Number one, they're saying student loan cancellation will benefit the wealthy, and that is false. That's completely fake. That's provably, demonstrably false. And instead of me going through the argument for that, I want to point you all to some very easy to remember, hopefully, links where when you're fighting with somebody on the internet, instead of wasting all your breath and running yourself ragged and getting stressed out and emotional and instead of wasting all your breath and running, as I just said, and, you know, being put on the defense, we have some very easy to remember links to answer nearly all of the hateful comments that are always lodged against us. And I'm going to take you through that here in a minute. One basic first thing I need to tell you, though, is that when you're arguing for student loan cancellation or the return of bankruptcy protections, which quite frankly is the most important thing, go to our website, do our daily actions, by the way. S2598 is bill in the Senate right now that is just absolutely incredibly red hot important. We've got to get this bill passed. We've got to get bankruptcy returned if we're going to see any kind of meaningful student loan cancellation. So yeah, our opposition, the first thing they're saying right now is that canceling student loans will benefit the wealthy. And that is completely and demonstrably false. And here, if I can share my screen with you for a moment, I will show you why. Screen share. Okay. Okay. So I'm sharing my screen now. Here is our handy dandy list of short links. So if you see that second link down the list there, bit.ly, it's all bit.ly, don't forget that, won't help rich. That is a very, in my humble opinion, well-written article by yours truly, which clearly, and I think almost completely uncontroversially puts that question to bed. Canceling student loans won't help the rich. Number one, you have to be determined to be financially needy in order to get a federal student loan. And so wealthy people don't get student loans. And the bottom 80% of earners hold 70% of the debt. Now compare that to PPP loans, for example, where the top 20% of earners, $100,000 or more, got 75% of those loans. The top 20% of earners, according to the Federal Reserve voluntary survey data, hold 30% of the loans, but so compared to student loans or compared to PPP loans, yeah, it's not even close. And so student loan cancellation will by and large benefit the unwealthy. Let me say that again. Student loan cancellation will by and large benefit the unwealthy. And remember, guys, before this pandemic, 80% of all borrowers were underwater on their loans. They were not able to keep up with their loans. Those people are not wealthy. And if 20% of the people are able to pay their loans, that frankly doesn't mean that they're wealthy either. And so I really don't believe the Federal Reserve data. Anytime you have a voluntary survey, the people who are likely to fill out that survey will overwhelmingly trend towards the financially stable. So think about it this way. If you're in trouble on your student loans and some quasi-governmental entity like the Federal Reserve calls you up and says, hey, you want to do a survey about student loans, and you're in default and you're not making much money and you're in bad shape, you're going to be far less inclined to want to fill out that survey than somebody who's doing great. Everything's perfect. Sure. Yeah. What do you need to know? So I think that whole premise is faulty in the first place. But even taking that premise as being true, if people earning over $100,000 a year hold 20% of that debt, that means, or 30%, then that means that the bottom 80% hold 70% of the debt. So canceling loans will largely benefit the unwealthy. And by the way, the people, at least in our group, who earn more than $100,000 a year, and there are a few, these people are not wealthy. These people are in their 50s and 60s, and they have been wrecked by these loans for many decades. So student loan cancellation will absolutely not benefit the wealthy, no matter what you compare it to, PPP loans in particular. So there's that. So don't forget our bit.ly link for that. And by the way, you should do a screenshot of this and just have this handy. You can see also, I'm just going to talk to these links. The first link, which I don't know if you can see my mouse or not, spells out the fact that we are indeed the largest politically untethered voting bloc in the nation. bit.ly, largest voting bloc. Remember that. Or don't remember it. Take a screenshot so you have it handy. So the other thing that the opposition is telling is spreading fake news about is that canceling student loans will cause inflation. And again, this is absolutely ludicrous. And the bit.ly for that is bit.ly/won't cause inflation. And you can read that article for yourself. In a nutshell, canceling student loans would put about $400 a month into the pockets of the average borrower. But for the average household, monthly expenses have increased by $500 a month during this pandemic. So student loan cancellation wouldn't even allow the average borrower to keep up with their basic monthly living expenses. Another very interesting thing, and this isn't something necessarily that you'd say to a hater, but it's just interesting news in the first place, is that older people now outnumber younger people with student loan debt. There's more people over the age of 35 than under the age of 35 with student loans. More people over the age of 50 than under the age of 25 with student loans. And in both cases, the older group owes far, far more, like 300% more. The over 50 crowd owes 300% more on average than the under 25 crowd. It's about 150% for the over 35 versus under 35. Another very interesting fact down here, down the list one more time, that's bit.ly/mostly GOP. And if you can guess what that means, what it means is that, believe it or not, and this is astonishing, people probably won't even believe you when you say it, but it's true, most student loan borrowers are either Republican or independent, right? So there's three classifications people like to say: Democrats, Republican, or independent. The Republicans and the independents outnumber the Democrats with student loans, with people who've been to college. And so, yeah, most student loan borrowers, despite what you may think, or despite what the general public may believe, they're not young liberal snowflakes. In fact, on balance, they tend to be either Republican or conservative and over the age of 35. These are all very important things to put in the faces of the haters as you're arguing with them. Another one down the list, this goes to show just how failed this lending system is. As I said at the top, most people were not paying on their student loans before the pandemic. In fact, 64.3% of all borrowers were not making payments before the pandemic. That's nearly 2/3 of all borrowers not paying before the pandemic. So remember, bit.ly, most not paying. That goes to show just how utterly failed this lending scam is. Another very interesting thing is looking at the 10 worst states in the country. So we recently did a top 10 and bottom 10. And I may just bring up that bit.ly for you to see the graph yourself, because this graph or this map really tells the tale. Oh, son of a bitch. 10 worst states. See, even I have a hard time remembering, but once you type it a few times, you get it. I've actually changed these links a few times, and I will not change them again, by the way. So I've got old memories in my head. So here you can see the worst states in the country. And what's that telling you? Those are all Southern Republican, largely, states. And again, we're a nonpartisan group, but it is quite interesting how the coasts, except for the southeastern coast, the coasts seem to be doing relatively far better than the South. And what else can you say about that? It's the South. The South is being wrecked. And there's no good reason for any Republican politician anywhere to be fighting for this lending system and fighting against us. So again, the bit.ly for that is bit.ly 10 worst states. We also wrote an article, we wrote an article specifically intended for Republicans and conservatives. And I'm not going to go into it. It's rather lengthy, but it's a very, very, very compelling argument for why Republicans should be on our side, not against us. Hopefully you saw all that. Okay, you probably didn't. Let me go back to our little bit.ly thing and you can see it again. Again, you should screenshot this so I don't have to keep going to it. bit.ly/4Republicans. Finally, the very last one you can see it's just a quick video where even Tucker Carlson is saying very compassionate things about the need, about how catastrophically failed this lending system is. And the guy who ran under President Trump, the Department of Education, is talking to him, and they both come to a general agreement that this lending system has got to be stopped. They talk about bankruptcy. They talk about student loan cancellation. It is the strongest interview that I've ever seen for our cause. So that's bit.ly/hear it from Tucker. And usually that's the first thing that I point the haters to. They go, hey, why should my tax dollars pay for it? Blah, blah, blah. First thing I say is, hey, guy, hear it from Tucker. So bit.ly/hear it from Tucker. And that usually shuts them up. But all of those things, those are the most common accusations that we hear. And instead of having to retype it every fucking time as you go do battle with these blockheads on Twitter and elsewhere, just throw one of those links in their face and it will probably shut them up. And it will save you a ton of headache and stress and emotion. And one thing I think I may have not made the point strongly enough about at the top is don't wear yourself out allowing these assholes to put you personally on the defensive. Because I've seen that game before. I know how it goes. Every time somebody gets you to start talking about your loans, where you're like, yeah, but my loans, I did this and I did that. And they're like, oh, well, you should have done this, should have done that. You go, yeah, but I tried this and I tried that. And they go, oh, you should have done this, should have done that. Don't do that. That doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the cause. All it does is winds to a dead end with you wrung out emotionally, tearing your hair out and losing your enthusiasm. Don't do that. This is not about you. It's a far larger problem that we're fighting for. And I know it's very easy to start doing that. No, but me, my loans, people like to speak from their own experiences. I get that, but don't do it. Don't allow anyone to make it about you. They're like, oh, well, you should have. No, don't go there. Stick to the higher topic at hand. And that is the student loan program that is a national threat, an unconstitutionally vicious, some would say socialistic even, college enriching monstrosity. And, I'll be honest with you guys, most of the haters, 90% of the haters, consider themselves to be conservative. They just do. I don't know why, but they just do. And so all of those links that I just showed you, and I'm going to show one maybe last time here tonight, it's very important that you have those at your fingertips so that you can very quickly and easily say, you know what, you're totally wrong. We aren't young, liberal, elitist kids. No, that's nonsense. Read this. And you can put old more than young into their face and just give them that to chew on. Because I'm telling you guys, as soon as you start talking about your own personal self on Twitter, you've basically lost the battle. Because no matter what you say, somebody else can say, oh, you should have known this, you should have done that, you shoulda, your fault, your responsibility. And just don't go there. It's a terrible place to be. You don't want to get stuck in that bullshit. We've got a nuclear strength argument to make here, ladies and gentlemen. There is no good reason for you to have to defend your own personal self anywhere. Our argument is sledgehammer strong. And you can pretty much all those things that I just listed answer almost all of the questions. I still need to write one more paper about how canceling loans will not cost the taxpayers much, if anything. And that's a very important. People go, yeah, cost the taxpayers. That's bullshit. That's completely nonsense. And quite frankly, our petition offers a very, very good, I think, very succinct and full explanation of that. But just because we're talking about it, I may as well tell you what it is. So unlike PPP loans, federal student loans can be canceled without needing one dime from the Treasury, without adding one penny to the national debt. Those PPP loans were expensive. Taxpayers had to shell out $1 trillion for those loans. They had to take money from the Treasury. They had to add money to the national debt. But with federally owned student loans, which is 90% of all student loan debt, the government paid for those loans many years ago, and they didn't pay much at all. They paid a tiny fraction of $1.6 trillion, probably around a quarter of that. And they have made a ton of money back over the past 12 years since Obama federalized the program. So on balance, unlike PPP loans or any of the other stimulus that we saw during the pandemic or elsewhere, student loans can be canceled without one dime from the Treasury, without adding even one penny to the national debt. And on balance, the Department of Education, aka the taxpayers, may be breaking about even. We don't know. Nobody knows what that actual number is, not even the Department of Education. But it is, if it's any cost at all, it is very small, probably in the neighborhood of, I don't know, I would guess a couple $100 billion, maybe. But, you know, despite all that, at the end of the day, the most important thing that I want to leave you with here tonight before I sign off, or before I go to comments, sorry, is the fact that the loans will not be paid. The loans will be canceled. Now, whether we get a clean, quick death to these loans, whether they're canceled the quick, clean way, which is by executive order, and bankruptcy lies at the core of that, by the way. We will not see meaningful student loan cancellation from Joe Biden unless and until we get the threat of bankruptcy returned, which is why S2598 is so freaking important right now, guys. Go to our website, do at least a month worth of our daily actions. We've got to get the threat of bankruptcy back on our side if Biden is going to cancel any kind of meaningful, significant amount of student loans. The loans will be canceled, whether it's quickly and cleanly, like what I just said, or whether it's a years-long dystopian, terrible, civilly unrestful unwinding where the loans wind up being canceled through the death of the borrower. That remains to be seen. And this stuff is not happening in a vacuum, ladies and gentlemen. What we do matters. This group, believe it or not, we don't seem like that big of a deal. I understand that. We're a little bit more big of a deal than you might think. We would not have student loan bankruptcy legislation to fight for right now, but for the people on this group. We would almost certainly not even be talking about student loan cancellation by executive order, but for this group and our petition that we started in March 2020, which has now hit 1.1 million signatures. We're thrilled that Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer embraced the concept. We're very not thrilled that they put this ridiculous artificial cap of $50,000 on the loan cancellation. That is a trick, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. Up to could mean anything. You know, Joe Biden could say, okay, ladies and gentlemen, I'm now going to cancel up to $50,000. And I guarantee you, dime to donuts or whatever that saying is, it'll come to mean almost nothing for almost everyone, because that's how the Department of Education rolls. They have no desire or intentions of actually canceling any loans. That has always been true. It's true today, and it will probably always be true. Up to $50,000, those are weasel words. Those are like used car salesman's words. Don't believe it, ladies and gentlemen. We've got to get the threat of bankruptcy back. We've got to. S2598 is absolutely important. What we do here on this group to push this bill could very well seal the fate. Whichever way these loans are going to get canceled, the easy way or the very, very hard and terrible way. So just remember, guys, if you forget everything else I said tonight, go to our website, do at least a month worth of our daily actions. It's very quick. It's mostly Twitter stuff. You can probably do a month worth of our daily actions in less than 20 minutes. You got to have Twitter, though. I hate Twitter. You probably hate Twitter, but Twitter's pretty useful, so get it. Even if you get a new Twitter account only for the purpose of this fight, it's worth doing. So, hey, I'm finally going to get back to the comments here. Oh, we have a ton. Robert Coletti says, you not fighting for student loan justice. Yeah, Robert, you've been on the group for about 3 weeks, and I've had multiple complaints about you, my friend. People have said that you just weird them out. So unfortunately, Robert, I don't think this is the group for you. I think you probably need to leave. Doug Grossifin says, who are you, Robert? Okay, let's not gang up on Robert. But yeah, so sorry, Robert. Sorry about that, guy. Crispy Street says, why would rich people take out student loans? I already read that. Yeah, good point. Rich people don't get student loans. Student loan cancellation will not benefit the wealthy. And shame on all these swamp rags like today, the Boston Globe, for example, did a blatant, shameless hit piece against us. That's going to continue, guys. Our opposition is fighting back like nothing we've ever seen before in the 17-year history of this organization. For the life of me, I don't understand what is so fucking sacrosanct about this failed, catastrophically, monstrously, galactically failed lending system that people from apparently both sides of the aisle are now fighting so hard for this swamp beast. I don't get it. It's ridiculous. But the harder they fight, the more obvious their desperation becomes, and the more obvious their fealty to the swamp appears. So shame on them. The facts are on our side, guys. The Constitution's on our side. You know, our founding fathers called for uniform bankruptcy rights, ahead of the power to declare war, ahead of the power to raise an army in the Constitution. Not the Bill of Rights, the body of the Constitution itself. So the founders are on our side, guys. Student loans are the only type of loan to be uniquely stripped of the constitutional uniform bankruptcy rights that they called for ahead of the power to declare war and raise an army, by the way, in the Constitution. Check it out, Article 1, Section 8. Hey, JJ Batch is here with us. Hey, JJ. JJ says, SL canceling benefiting the wealthy is a one-sided opinion the talking heads want to use. It's disgusting, JJ. You know, some shark named Adam Looney from the Treasury Department all of a sudden popped up at the Brookings Institute. He whips out this very dicey, dubious data from a voluntary survey done by the Federal Reserve, and he uses that to claim that because the highest 20% earners hold 30% of the debt, we can't cancel loans because it will benefit the wealthy. Ridiculous. Canceling the student loans will largely benefit the unwealthy, as I've already said. I'm not going to repeat myself. But remember, bit.ly/won't help rich will shut all the haters down on that particular point. Hey, Luis Perez says, to be honest with you, we're better off pushing Trump to support bankruptcy protections for student loans than we're pushing Biden to cancel student loans. The presidential election is 2 years away, Louis. I cannot picture the student loan system even existing in 2024. Truly. I mean, hear me out. 2/3 of all borrowers were not paying before the pandemic. Now here during the pandemic, maybe the tail end of the pandemic, almost nobody is paying. And I don't care when they try and turn this lending system back on, very few people will ever resume paying. I would be stunned if even 20% of the borrowers actually have resumed paying within about 3 or 4 months of them turning the lending system back on. I just don't see it. So the lending system is done. It's vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy. Certainly federal student loans are becoming one big national joke at this point. So I'm not worried about 2024. I am, however, worried about the midterms. And what are both parties doing? The Democrats are looking at a potentially extinction level event if they continue to blatantly screw us, the largest untethered voting bloc in U.S. history, on the student loan issue. What are they thinking? Are they suicidal? What are they doing? On the other hand, the Republicans are trying their damnedest to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory by this nonsensical doubling down of them finger wagging at us, the borrowers, instead of calling out this heinously corrupted, galactically failed, viciously unconstitutional, college enriching, red state wrecking lending scam. What are they doing? I have no idea. And there's some good Republicans out there, guys, by the way. What I just said is a broad brush. There's some good Republicans out there. Josh Hawley, John Cornyn, Matt Gaetz, believe it or not. John Katko come to mind. quite a few good conservatives out there in the zeitgeist as well. But for every good one, there's probably 100 bad ones. So on the student loan issue, hopefully that'll change. It is changing, by the way. It is changing. At some point, one of the governors of those red southern states that I showed you the map for earlier, at some point, one of them is going to snap, and he's going to be like, "No, I can't do this anymore. I can't. My state is being wrecked." Like Greg Abbott, governor of Texas, at some point, he's got to snap and say, "Wait a minute. You're saying that Texans, most of whom are Republican or independent, by the way, owe $141 billion, mostly to the federal government on these student loans? What the F? No, I'm not doing that. I, Greg Abbott, the governor of Texas, am going to call on the president to cancel these loans and get this cancer out of my great state of Texas." Similarly, for Ron DeSantis of Florida, or Brian Kemp in Georgia, or Larry Hogan in Maryland. I said Missouri last night. Larry Hogan, Maryland. Any number of Republican governors of any of those southern states, many other states as well. Arizona comes to mind. New Hampshire comes to mind. South Dakota comes to mind. We're going to see, hopefully sooner rather than later, Republicans finally start to wake up to this issue. All the swamp creatures, the Beth Akers, the Jason Delisles, all these fake conservative swamp people who are nothing more than just student loan industry swamp sycophants, they are wearing out their welcome in Washington, D.C. They are a liability to the GOP. They are a liability to conservatism in general. And people everywhere are going to be waking up. In fact, they already are waking up under our feet as we speak, and they're starting to stand out. And by the way, if you happen to be a conservative, you need to get louder, because right now, the way the partisan nonsense works, the left has managed to grab this issue and make it a partisan issue. So the right automatically opposes everything the left does. And it's stupid. There's no good reason for that. In fact, the bipartisan cracks are very dangerous for our cause. Partisanship is the partisan cracks, I should say. Partisanship is poison for this movement. It does no good to have only one party fighting for you. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Republicans need to be fighting for us. And hopefully they smell the blood in the water with Biden, and they could try and steal this issue from the Democrats. They should. I would say they must, because I know the Democrats look weak right now, but at the 11th hour, Biden could pull some kind of a rabbit out of his hat. He could succeed in making people think that you've got to vote for Democrats if you want to have any chance at student loan cancellation. They may very well sow those seeds in the zeitgeist effectively. I don't think they will, but they might. And if they do, then the we could be looking very well at a repeat of the last election, where all these 45 million, probably 42 million distressed student loan borrowers tip the scales in important states like Georgia, like Michigan, like Pennsylvania, like many other places. We are the largest untethered voting bloc in the nation's history, guys. We decide elections. And so the Republicans, they had better watch their shit. Both parties are playing with fire right now. Mark my words on that. But yeah, you're right, JJ. Vanessa Meyer says wealthy people don't take student loans. No, they don't. And by the way, guys, those liberal elitist snowflakes that everybody on Fox News would like you to believe hold all the loans? Liberal elitist snowflakes don't get student loans. They have like trust funds or something. They go to like Brown and Cornell. They don't take out student loans because they're wealthy. And by the way, another thing, the young doctors and lawyers that all other Republicans, like Ron DeSantis, by the way, governor of Florida, like to trot out as being representative of student loan borrowers. In other words, young, successful college graduates that don't need student loan cancellation. Those people, they tend to refinance their federal student loans out of the federal program with companies like SoFi. So those people wouldn't even be affected because, as I said, they took their loans out of the federal program, got a break on interest, whatever. So yeah, guys, we've got this whole argument sewed up and in the bag. There's not even one policy point that I have ever or will ever have to capitulate on that I can see. We've been doing this for many years. We've never, ever, ever lost an honest policy argument. We got this. We've been sharpening the sword to a fine razor's edge over 17 years. We will never be beat. And if you saw us on Fox News 3 weeks ago, I hope you'll agree with me. The opposition has nothing. And by the way, we'd love to go back on any of that stuff. Going on any of the national media is very good for us. We can go into the lion's den. We love that. And the best way to make that happen is for our members to reach out to these news organizations and say, hey, you should really interview the Student Loan Justice Group. They've got a petition, They have people in every major and minor media market in the world who can put a face to this problem. People who are being absolutely wrecked, mostly older people, by the way. Yeah, we can work with any and all media, and we're very happy to do that. But the best way for that to happen is for you to make it happen. Because if I call people and go, yeah, I represent studentloanjustice.org, and you need to interview us, that's tacky. It never happens. Hey, Chris B Street says, look at it as trying to educate people. Some people won't change their minds, but it could move them a little bit in the right direction, and it would help with people that come along later and read the tweets after. Exactly, Chris. You know, half the value of going toe-to-toe with the haters is that there's a record of that, and other people will come back and read that. And so us posting like those articles that I just said, all those bit.ly articles, those bit.ly links, very helpful for the cause, whether you change the guy's mind or not. But remember also, guys, all that stuff that I just pointed you to, all the bit.ly articles, that by and large is largely unknown facts to the public. Whether they hate loan cancellation or they're for it, most people don't know that stuff. And so it is just incredibly important for us to teach them, to enlighten them on that very important, very factual and true information that they don't know, they need to know. So fighting this battle feels good, guys. It's really cathartic. People don't know the truth about this, and they may never know unless you tell them. And you can't unhear that. You know, we are the pioneers in this struggle. And if we allow what they did to student loans to be done to other loans in this country, we will become a serf, a slave, a vassal state. You know, John Adams once said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. And that is the gun barrel that we are looking down right now, guys. We cannot let this terrible unconstitutional precedent of removing bankruptcy protections for student loans stand. We can't let that stand, because the bad guys, and they're out there, they will do everything they can do to extend that to every loan they possibly can. I'm already hearing murmurs in Washington, D.C. that they would like to tinker and do the same thing vis-a-vis the bankruptcy laws to medical debt as they did to student loans. So that may be next up on the chopping block. We don't want to even go there, guys. We don't want to go there. Trust me. There's a lot riding on this battle right here, right now. And going to our website and fighting for S2598 is, by doing our daily actions, at least a week's worth, if not a month's worth, is the very best, most effective use of your time, at this critical time. Because remember, these are your loans. This is your problem. This is your battle. And the bad guys, our opposition, they want you doing nothing. They want you sitting there waiting, watching, and worrying, and reading, I don't know, Forbes magazine, or more recently, the Boston Globe. They want you reading that swamp trash. They want you dejected. They want you walking around with your tail in between your legs. They want you quiet. They want you not fighting. Don't give them the pleasure. This is a fun battle to fight. And we win every battle we've ever been in. Everywhere we go, the bad guys, at least the ones with names, not the anonymous Twitter trolls, the people who actually have a name that they're staking their argument on. Everywhere we go, the bad guys scurry. They run and hide like cockroaches when the lights are turned on. So we got this, ladies and gentlemen. What more do I need to tell you? I don't know. But we definitely got this. So Luis Perez again says, I don't see strong bipartisan support to cancel loans. But I do see that type of support for returning bankruptcy. Great point, Lewis. I never say that, but it's true. Bankruptcy was the radical, extreme, whatever, for the first probably 14 years of our existence. Now, student loan cancellation is the extreme. It's the partisan nonsense. I don't hear almost anyone ever trying to argue against the return of bankruptcy protection to student loans. Like almost nobody does that anymore. And dude, that is such a good thing. We've come such a long way. You have no idea, ladies and gentlemen. I went on NPR back in like 2007, and I was ripped apart by it was a call-in show, On Point with Tom Ashbrook. It was a call-in show. Probably 80% of the people that called in that show, and this is a very liberal show. This is NPR we're talking about. 80% of those people were like, you really should pay back money if you borrow it. And they're, wagging their finger. They had no idea about the viciously unconstitutional and predatory and hyperinflationary nature of this terrible, vicious student loan system. And that was a liberal audience. And they were talking about bankruptcy. Oh, no, we can't have bankruptcy. No, that's terrible. Well, today, almost no one will argue against bankruptcy. So that's how far we've come, ladies and gentlemen. And right now, we are on the very cusp of finally getting limited, but still very real and very meaningful bankruptcy protections returned to federal student loans. There's a 10-year waiting period, which I don't like, but whatever. It's a big deal, guys. And if you forget everything I said tonight, remember, you need to go to our website for the fourth time and do our daily actions. Do at least a week's worth, if not a month's worth. Also, go to our Medium channel, which you can see right here. Go to our Medium channel and check out like the first 7 or so articles. Read them. They're short, they're quick, they're easy to understand. Read them so that you can understand this problem. Take your time. Think about them, read them, and understand them. It will make you a far stronger, more valuable, more effective student loan justice warrior. I'm going to look at our Twitter. We generally don't get comments on our Twitter for some reason. But I'm going to look again for comments on our Twitter and see what I can see. If we're on Twitter, I hope we are. We should be on. Okay, there we are. We have 4 comments on Twitter. As soon as I say we're not going to have any comments, all of a sudden we have comments. Matt Kern says, Alan, do you know Mark Short? Mark Short, the name rings a bell. I can't think of it off the top of my mind right now. So these are all from Joanna Kearns. Good evening, Joanna. Good to see you. Joanna has been doing the hard work every single day in Florida. And I salute Joanna. She is one of the warriors in this group. And we need more people like Joanna in our group. The daily actions only take minutes, if not less than a minute. There's no good reason for you to not at least be doing our daily actions. If you think you're better than us, you're not. If you think this problem is going to get solved and you can sit on your ass and somebody else is going to pull your weight for you, they're not. It doesn't work that way. It never has. You need to help. You need to help us. And if you don't after this, then I'm sorry, but you're a dick. And shame on you. You need to leave our group. There's a lot of people, probably thousands of people every day who are doing it's not hard work, but it's effort, that is required to solve this problem, which begins with returning the threat of bankruptcy to the loans, by the way, ladies and gentlemen. I know I've said that twice, but I need to repeat it. Crispy Street says 2 things. I try to appeal to people's compassion and let them know people are suffering under a horrible system. Yeah, whatever you think is best, Chris. Certainly people are suffering badly. These are not your, young, invincible, blue-haired, snowflake, liberal, elitist kids. These are, by and large, older people, and the worst hurt people are older. They're in their 50s and 60s and 70s and beyond, and they've been absolutely wrecked by these loans, and it's just disgusting and obscene. And what kind of country does this to their own people? Some of our opposition are just sociopaths, though, I have to say. and you can usually spot them pretty quickly, especially on Twitter. Most of the anonymous ones tend to be literally sociopaths. I mean, they are just sadistic assholes, and you probably aren't going to get too far trying to pull their heartstrings. But you know, whatever you think is best. Everybody's got their own. You do you. Everybody's got their own style. Going down the list here, Terry Dodd. Hey, Terry says it's not Terry. Everybody on this group that I mentioned their names so far, except for that Robert guy, they've been doing the hard work, and you know I salute you guys. You know I totally salute you. So any of the harsh comments I have, they're not meant for anyone who is doing the work. Everybody out there who's doing the work, I salute and applaud you. Everybody else, you need to help. This is your problem. This is your battle. Don't be lazy. Don't think you're better than us. You're not. Dive in and help us fight. The water is fine. As I said, everywhere we go, the bad guys scurry like cockroaches. Doug, I think, agrees. We will prevail, but we need all of you to do your part. The over 50 is in this fight much more than the younger ones at this point, in my opinion. I think you're right, Doug. The people that I see that are doing the work day in, day out. Well, no, most of them are over 50. There are some super great younger people on our group, though. There really are people just off the top of my head, people like Heather Taylor and I think Amina and many people, Jessica, so on and on and on. Young people are doing stuff, but young people should be doing way more, truly, in my humble opinion. I'm over 50, so Terry Dodd says it's not even worth stressing yourself over these loans or the haters, period. If they want to wag their finger, let them wag and go about your life. Yeah, that's certainly true, Terry. I don't put too much effort into the haters. I'll usually insult them and say bit.ly/hear it from Tucker. And I usually don't hear from them again. If they keep going, maybe I'll spend a little bit more time, but I very happily block these assholes. But definitely use our bit.ly links, because for posterity, for people looking at those arguments later on, and even those people, maybe when they're out of the heat of battle and they actually think about things, they may revisit it and probably will change their minds if they're honest and good people, which is about a 50-50 on Twitter I'm seeing. But Chris says, in my opinion, people just have a fixed belief, often wrong. Yeah, they don't understand exactly. Particularly older people, they're like, hey, when I went to college, I could pick berries over the summer and I could pay my student loans. Yeah, okay, good for you guys. I'm fresh out of merit badges, but times have changed. These are not your grandpa's student loans. Chris, again, just underscores the importance of effectively engaging with our opposition. Don't let them get you too mad. If you find yourself white-knuckled and doing this, it's probably because you let them get to you. It's probably because you let them draw yourself into this personal defense. Like, oh, my loans, me, me. No, don't go there, guys. No good reason to. Michelle Capoon. Hey, Michelle, how you doing? I have to do that as well. Right. And Michelle notes that she was at a luncheon and educated some haters what's actually going on. When you look at somebody eyeball to eyeball, you're in the same room, you're physically there, you will find that you will have much better success. You know, it's easy to be an asshole on the internet, especially these assholes on Twitter who hide behind fake names, untraceable accounts. So, yeah. So, okay, guys, I've gone a little further longer tonight than I wanted to. I said this last week, and it was true, that this is the most important week in the history of our organization. It was true last week. It was true the week before. I think it was probably true the week before. It's been true for the past 6 months almost. Maybe a few weeks were maybe not the most important week, but this week definitely is the most important. I still haven't heard word from the Senate about our bill yet. I'm still waiting to hear, and I'm waiting with bated breath. So that tells me that the sausage is still being made in Washington, D.C., ladies and gentlemen. And what you do right now really, 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 really matters. So I hope that tonight's live stream has inspired you, encouraged you. And before I wrap it up, let me just leave you one more time with our bit.ly links, which I will hopefully dial in for you any moment now as I wander through the internet to find them. These bit.ly links are very, very handy, guys. Screenshot our bit.ly links, which are coming up right now. Just a moment. Okay, maybe I'm going the wrong way. Okay, there it is, right there. Perfect. Yeah, guys. There it is, our bit.ly links. Screenshot this screen. Remember these links. Use them as much as you can as you go forward doing battle with the haters. They answer most of the criticisms that we see, and they will save you a huge amount of stress, frustration, emotional toil, and trouble. So do that. Use it. All right, guys. I will be back on Wednesday. Ed, our supreme co-leader / leader, will be with you tomorrow. Make this week count. I urge you. I beg you. I wish you the best of luck. Godspeed. See you on Wednesday. Do our daily actions. And God bless everybody.